This meditation is offered by Robert Beatty, the founder and guiding teacher of PIMC, the Portland, Oregon Insight Meditation Community.
I have a poem. This is from Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi was a human being who lived in South India. And when he was 12, he was walking down the street and he saw a woman nursing her baby. But what he saw was God pouring God into God. And he never went home. He went up on a little hill that they call a mountain nearby, and he spent the rest of his life there. And tens of thousands of people came to visit him over the years. Ramana Maharshi, the primary practice that he offered people was, who am I? Who am I? So, he's the one that, as I recall, he was dying of throat cancer. And his disciples were around him, and one said something like, "Don't leave us, Master." And he said, "Leave you? Where could I go?" Now, that's a strange response, isn't it? Though I think the poem fits it very nicely. This is a poem by Ramana Maharshi. Identity. There's no greater joke than this, that being the reality ourselves, we seek to gain reality. We think that there is something binding our reality, and it, the ego, must be destroyed before the reality is gained. This is ridiculous. A day will dawn when you will yourself laugh at all your efforts. That which is true on the day of laughter is also true now. There's no greater joke than this, that being the reality ourselves, we seek to gain reality. We think that there is something binding our reality and that it, the ego, must be destroyed before the reality is gained. This is ridiculous. A day will dawn when you will yourself laugh at your efforts. That which is true on the day of laughter is also true now. So, friends, could we perhaps just be here? So let's be aware of sitting. Let us notice the contact of the body with the chair. It's not some abstraction, not some thought. It's actually life displaying itself as contact and consciousness of contact. The clouds and trance states of thinking, emotions, planning, they're powerful. They're really powerful. Hypnotic states that are almost insurmountable, but then in just a moment, there's awareness of breathing. There's also hearing. I doubt you can hear it there, but the crows are quite, I think, irritated outside. They haven't been fed yet. Rather loud. And so let us make our dedication or intention to be here, to be with the pains and pleasures of the body, to notice the life in the hands and fingers, and when awareness awakens in the midst of a wandering mind, to simply redirect without any malice, without any recrimination, without self-criticism, to just redirect home to the body. one of the first great liberating insights is the insight into nama rupa. Nama being name or mind or awareness, and rupa being matter. There is the mind and its objects. The breath is an object. That which knows it is consciousness, mindfulness. And the moment that we realize this, in the words of Carl Jung, we begin to live a destiny rather than a fate. It's as though we get our hands on the controls in a way. We begin to notice, something begins to notice. When the mind is lost in the trances, wandering, there begins to be the capacity to make a conscious intention to be awake, to come home to breathing, to embrace the reality of the body, to embrace the reality of thinking, to come home. And this reality, this practice, we could call it, is so profoundly simple. It's hard to believe it. Doesn't require any fancy theories, doesn't require great analysis. It's just this that's happening now. And this might be the completely natural waxing and waning of the breath. It's as dependable while we're alive as the stages of the moon, as the tides, as the coming and going of daylight. It is nature unfolding in her own way, breathing in and out. there are a handful of realities which hold through the entire universe. One is, if something has a beginning, it will have an ending. It includes galaxies, planets, species. It includes heartbeats. It includes this breath. So we're doing much more than simply minding the breath. We practice in the direction of Ramana Maharshi's, seeing God, pouring God into God. And we go far beyond thinking, though thinking itself sings the same song of anicca, impermanence. And so, as well as attending to the actual sensations of breathing, somewhere in the back of our mind or deep in our intuition, we are gaining experience, breath after breath, that comes from observing how the breath begins, how it rises to fullness, how it declines, and how it vanishes. Awareness receives, co-arises with its objects. Awareness itself is not permanent. There are moments of breathing consciousness, body consciousness, moments of mind consciousness, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness. And as we practice and the clouds clear away, the impersonality of it begins to dawn on us. Thoughts think themselves. The breath breathes itself. It's such a profound relief to not have to do anything, to not even improve oneself. This very experience which we experience as I, is itself anicca. And so there is the tuning at which there's just life unfolding. And there's a different tuning in which there is an experience of a vulnerable, sensitive person. And this, quote, person has lived a whole lifetime in a universe and world which is impermanent. Hence, there's dukkha, which arises from the natural wanting things to stay the same, of wanting things to be pleasant, not agonizing. And so it behooves us. It is essential for us to love and have compassion for this person experience. And we can remember a moment in our lives when there was love. Might be right now. It might have been a moment on a mountaintop or in a raft going down a river or holding your baby while she nursed or being with your purring cat in your lap. Or maybe being with a friend while they hurt. Or maybe watching the news, seeing the vast suffering of the world. And the experience of compassion arises. Any moment of remembering that reconstitutes the same experience. And there's a shorthand, which you all know. And that is to conjure up the thought of, I love you, with your name at the end. For some people, this is very difficult. And that very difficulty speaks of its importance. Take just a moment to have an intuition of your lifetime. It's been pretty hard. There's been beauty, there's been love. There's also been a great deal of loss. Remembering this, how can we do anything but love ourselves? I just had a memory of a particular agony near the end of my first marriage, fighting, walking in the night in the rain, desperate, agonized, terrified. You've had one of those, or 10 of those, or 100 of those, something like that. If you remember that, how can you do anything but have compassion for yourself? Compassion because you're a normal human being. I love you with your name at the end. And please now allow awareness to awaken in the whole lower half of your body, from the waist down, legs, feet, pelvis, genitals, legs, thighs, knees, ankles, toes. All the organs cradled in the pelvis. The diaphragm, solar plexus. All those feelings that are deep inside. Awakening to the back, from the sacrum all the way up to the neck. The sides all the way to the armpits. The chest, from the solar plexus to the throat. The fingers and hands and arms. Shoulders. The jaw, the cheeks, the lips. The eyes, the forehead. It's all alive. It's nothing but life. And allowing an intention to arise, a prompted intention to arise in mind, which is the intention to open eyes. You've done this a million times, but to do it consciously is quite something. To notice the effort that's required once the intention is operationalized, to notice the effort that's required to open the eyes. And to see what happens, to know what happens. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. I'm inspired to share a little story with you. I have my drum, my lovely drum. It was quite a trip the other day to meet Sapphire Bouchelion, who's a drummer. He did things with this drum that blew my mind. But I do have this simple little beat that I like to do. Sounds pretty good over the microphone here. Listen to these high notes, aren't they cool? Many of you have heard this, some of you probably many times. Pretty helpful though. Thus have I heard. The Buddha was giving one of his more inspired Dharma talks. And there were two brothers in attendance. One of them, I guess it was a talk, probably a talk on Paticca Samuppada, a talk that can seem very complicated. What causes what? The stopping of what says what about liberation? And one of the brothers, partway through this talk, opened his eyes and said, I get it. I get it. He got it. He understood. He had a Ramana Maharshi moment. And it changed him. He went to the Buddha, and the Buddha was The Buddha validated his experience, though such experiences need no validation. And he went to his brother and said, I got it. And a detail that I forgot was that this first brother went to Harvard. He did his postdoc work at Yale, then went to Stanford for several more years, maybe to Cambridge for a bit too, just to round things out. He was brilliant. Maybe he got a perfect score in his SATs. He could really think. His brother, on the other hand, had always been sort of artistic. Maybe he fixed cars. He could fix anything. He also had quite a big heart. And he loved a lot of people and they loved him. But he decided, since his brother had awakened, that, and he just didn't get it, these complicated Dharma talks. And he went to the Buddha and said, I quit. I'm going to disrobe. I'm going to stop meditating because I just don't get it. I listen to your talks. They're too complicated. And the Buddha looked at him with the sweet, compassionate eyes that we can only imagine a Buddha has. And he said, oh, don't quit tonight. Come tomorrow morning. Come tomorrow morning, and I will give you a practice of your very own. So the brother wasn't very happy with this, but he thought, well, I might as well give it a try. The next morning he came quite early. He did all the early morning meditations with everybody else. And then the Buddha was free, and he went up to him and said, I'm ready for my meditation instruction. And the Buddha reached behind him and picked up a very beautiful long stem flower. And he handed it to the other brother, the second brother, and said, see this flower? Your practice is to watch this flower, to hold this flower. When your mind wanders, come back to this flower and just be with this flower. You know how to be with things. So the brother took the flower, and he wasn't very impressed, but he was willing to try, and he did see the beauty in it. And so he held this flower from early morning, from the dawn, until somewhere early afternoon, when the flower began to wilt. Its exquisite beauty began to simply fall away. Its stem got weak, the petals got limp. And all of a sudden, he got it. He understood anicca, dukkha, and anatta in that intuitive way, which is what really counts. And so, he stayed. He went on to become a fully liberated being, whatever that is. But at least he became more and more loving and kind, patient, accepting, able to face the complications of life. And this is all to say that there are many paths. In fact, maybe one could say there's no path. One could say that each of us is following some inner pull, some inner longing, and that sincerity of heart is really the crucial factor. We don't have to go to Harvard. We don't have to be an artist. We don't have to be a poet. We don't have to be great at anything. we can just be who we are. And that's the door. The door is being who we are. That's comforting to me.
This has been a meditation offered by Robert Beatty, the founder and guiding teacher of PIMC, the Portland, Oregon Insight Meditation Community. For more information, you may go to www.robertbeatty.com. That's www.robertbeatty.com.